Hello there, listener. I hope you're all snug as a bug in bed. I have some stories you might like to hear. However, my story won't be first. I'd like you to listen to my friends. I hope you're able to rest well. I'll tell you mine at the end.
A long way out in the deep blue sea, there lived a fish, not just an ordinary fish, but the most beautiful fish in the entire ocean. His scales were every shade of blue and green and purple, with sparkling silver scales among them. The other fish were amazed at his beauty. They called him Rainbow Fish. "Come on, Rainbow Fish," they would call. "Come and play with us." But the Rainbow Fish would just glide past, proud and silent, letting his scales shimmer. One day, a little blue fish followed after him. "Rainbow Fish," he called, "wait for me. Please give me one of your shiny scales. They are so wonderful, and you have so many." "You want me to give you one of my special scales? Who do you think you are?" cried the Rainbow Fish. "Get away from me." Shocked, the little blue fish swam away. He was so upset he told all his friends what had happened. From then on, no one would have anything to do with the Rainbow Fish. They turned away when he swam by. What good were the dazzling, shimmering scales with no one to admire them? Now he was the loneliest fish in the entire ocean. One day he poured out his troubles to the starfish. "I really am beautiful. Why doesn't anyone like me?" "I can't answer that for you," said the starfish. "But if you go beyond the coral reef to a deep cave, you will find the wise octopus. Maybe she can help you." The Rainbow Fish found the cave. It was very dark inside, and he couldn't see anything. Then suddenly, two eyes caught him in their glare, and the octopus emerged from the darkness. "I have been waiting for you," said the octopus with a deep voice. "The waves have told me your story. This is my advice. Give a glittering scale to each of the other fish. You will no longer be the most beautiful fish in the sea, but you will discover how to be happy." "I can't," the Rainbow Fish started to say, but the octopus had already disappeared into a dark cloud of ink. "Give away my scales? My beautiful shining scales? Never! How could I ever be happy without them?" Suddenly he felt the light touch of a fin. The little blue fish was back. "Rainbow Fish, don't be angry. I just want one little scale." The Rainbow Fish wavered. "Only one very, very small shimmery scale," he thought. "Well, maybe I wouldn't miss just one." Carefully the Rainbow Fish pulled out the smallest scale and gave it to the little fish. Thank you very much," the little blue fish bubbled playfully as he tucked the shiny scale in among his blue ones. A rather peculiar feeling came over the Rainbow Fish. For a long time he watched the little blue fish swim back and forth with his new scale glittering in the water. The little blue fish whizzed for the ocean with his scale flashing, so it didn't take long before the Rainbow Fish was surrounded by the other fish. Everyone wanted a glittering scale. The rainbow fish shared his scales left and right, and the more he gave away, the more delighted he became. When the water around him filled with glimmering scales, he at last felt at home among the other fish. Finally, the rainbow fish had only one shining scale left. His most prized possessions had been given away, yet he was very happy. "Come on, rainbow fish," they called. "Come and play with us." "Here I come," said the rainbow fish, and happy as a splash, he swam off to join his friend. Good night, listener.
Giraffes can't dance. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were awfully crooked and his legs were rather thin. He was very good at standing still and munching shoots off trees, but when he tried to run around, he buckled at the knees. Now every year in Africa, they hold the jungle dance, where every single animal turns up to skip and prance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald felt so sad, because when it came to dancing, he was really very bad. The warthogs started waltzing, and the rhinos rock and rolled. The lions danced a tango that was elegant and bold. The chimps all did a cha-cha with a very Latin feel, and 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked towards the floor, but the lions saw him coming, and they soon began to roar. "Hey, look at clumsy Gerald," the animals all sneered. "Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool. Oh, Gerald, you're so weird." Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted to the spot. "They're right," he thought. "I'm useless. I feel like such a clot." So he crept off from the dance floor and he started walking home. He'd never felt so sad before, so sad and so alone. Then he found a little clearing, and he looked up at the sky. "The moon can be so beautiful," he whispered with a sigh. "Excuse me," coughed a cricket, who'd seen Gerald earlier on. "But sometimes when you're different, you just need a different song." Listen to the swaying grass and listen to the trees. To me, the sweetest music is those branches in the breeze. So imagine that the lovely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music if you really want it to. With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. His hooves had started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying, and his tail was swishing round. He threw his arms out sideways, and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault and leapt up into the air. Gerald felt so wonderful, his mouth was open wide. "I am dancing, yes, I am dancing, I am dancing," Gerald cried. Then, one by one, each animal who'd been there at the dance arrived while Gerald boogied on and watched him quite entranced. They shouted, "It's a miracle! We must be in a dream. Gerald's the best dancer that we've ever seen. How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how." Gerald simply twirled around and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. "We all can dance," he said, "when we find music that we love." Good night, listener.
The Tiger Who Came to Tea by Judith Kerr. Once there was a little girl called Sophie, and she was having tea with her mummy in the kitchen. And suddenly, there was a ring at the door. Sophie's mummy said, "I wonder who that can be. It can't be the milkman, because he came this morning. And it can't be the boy from the grocer, because this isn't the day he comes. And it can't be Daddy, because he's got his key. We'd better open the door and see." Sophie opened the door, and there was a big, furry, stripy tiger. The tiger said, "Excuse me, but I'm very hungry. Do you think I could have tea with you?" Sophie's mummy said, "Of course. Come in." So the tiger came into the kitchen and sat down at the table. Sophie's mummy said, "Would you like a sandwich?" But the tiger didn't just take one sandwich. He took all the sandwiches on the plate and swallowed them in one big mouthful. Oh! And he still looked hungry. So Sophie passed him the buns. But again, the tiger didn't eat just one bun. He ate all the buns on the dish. And then he ate all the biscuits and all the cake until there was nothing left to eat on the table. So Sophie's mummy said, "Would you like a drink?" And the tiger drank all the milk in the milk jug and all the tea in the teapot. And then he looked around the kitchen to see what else he could find. He ate all the supper that was cooking in the saucepans, and all the food in the fridge, and all the packets and tins in the cupboard, and he drank all the milk, and all the orange juice, and all of Daddy's beer, and all the water in the tap. Then he said, "Thank you for my nice tea. I think I'd better go now." And he went. Sophie's mummy said, "I don't know what to do. I've got nothing for Daddy's supper. The tiger has eaten it all." And Sophie found she couldn't have her bath because the tiger had drunk all the water in the tap. Just then, Sophie's daddy came home. So Sophie and her mummy told him what had happened and how the tiger had eaten all the food and drunk all the drink. And Sophie's daddy said, "I know what we'll do. I've got a very good idea. We'll put on our coats and go to a cafe." So they went out in the dark, and all the street lamps were lit, and all the cars had their lights on, and they walked down the road to a cafe. And they had a lovely supper with sausages and chips and ice cream. In the morning, Sophie and her mummy went shopping, and they bought lots more things to eat. And they also bought a very big tin of tiger food, in case the tiger should come to tea again. But he never did. Good night, listener.
The Bravest Fish by Matt Buckingham. Far below the waves, a little fish named Stanley lived with his school. They were the brightest, sparkliest fish of all the deep, dark sea. One morning, Stanley woke up late. "Hello, it's me," he called out to his friends. But the reef was strangely quiet. Suddenly, Stanley remembered that today was the day his school swam to the cooler waters for the summer. "Jumping jellyfish," he groaned. He hurried to the meeting point as fast as his fins could carry him. But no one was there. As he looked around, he saw a bright light. "Aha! They haven't gone far," he said, and he raced towards the glow. But it was only a lobster, counting coins. "Go away. Don't touch my treasure," the lobster growled, snapping his claws. "I'm looking for my friends," said Stanley. "Fish," the lobster grumbled. "Those others were in such a hurry to find someone, they upset my coins." "Others?" asked Stanley. "My friends." "Join them then," snarled the lobster, and Stanley sped off. Ahead of him, Stanley saw a shimmer. He could just make out a bright, sparkly fish. One of his friends. "Hello, it's me," he called, swimming faster. Clonk. Stanley crashed headfirst into something hard. "Jumping jellyfish," he cried. It wasn't one of his friends at all, but his own reflection in a shiny pearl. Stanley rubbed his bumped nose, feeling a little dazed. He didn't notice a dark shape coming up behind him. When he turned around, Stanley found himself staring straight into the mouth of a huge shark. Stanley shrieked. Over coral, under weeds, he sped with the shark snapping at his tail. Finally, Stanley saw a small hole in a rock below. He dived down inside to just miss being gobbled up. Deep within the cave, Stanley shivered and shook. He felt sad and lonely. He was beginning to think he'd never see his friends again. "Well, I can't stay here forever," he said at last. Stanley poked his head out of the cave to see if the shark had left. "Jumping jellyfish," he squealed. The sea was a golden orange, glowing and glittering. It was the most wonderful sight he'd ever seen because there in front of him were his friends. "Hello, it's me," he called. "Stanley," his friends cheered. "Where have you been? We've been looking all over for you." And Stanley told them his adventure as they swam off in one bright, sparkly, happy school. Good night, listener.
Where the Wild Things Are. Story and pictures by Marie Sendak. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. His mother called him the Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew until a ceiling hung with the vines, and the walls became the world all around, and the ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and Good night, listener. Hello. I'm happy to be here with you right now. Are you ready for another story? Yes? Today I have with me the book, The Little Red Hen. I hope you enjoy it. The story of the Little Red Hen. Once upon a time, there was a little red hen who lived on a farm. Early one morning, she woke up and went outside. There she found some corn. "Who will help me plant the corn?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Who will help me water the corn?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Now, who will help me cut the corn?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Who will help me carry the corn to the mill?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Who will help me grind the corn?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Who will help me knead the bread?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Who will help me bake the bread?" said the little red hen. "Not I," said the cow. "Not I," said the cat. "Not I," said the rat. "Oh, very well, I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. "Who will help me eat the bread?" said the little red hen. "I will," said the cow. "I will," said the cat. "I will," said the rat. "Oh, no, you won't. I'll eat it myself," said the little red hen. And so she did. The end. Goodnight, listener.
Bunnycakes by Rosemary Wells. It was Grandma's birthday. Max made her an earthworm birthday cake. "No, Max," said Max's sister Ruby. "We are going to make Grandma an angel surprise cake with raspberry fluff icing." Max wanted to help. "Don't touch anything, Max," said Ruby. But it was too late. Ruby sent Max to the store with a list that said, eggs. Max wanted red-hot marshmallow squirters for his earthworm cake, so he wrote red-hot marshmallow squirters on the list. The grocer could not read Max's writing. "Eggs," said the grocer, and he gave Max eggs. Max brought the eggs home to Ruby. "Don't bump the table, Max," said Ruby, but it was too late. Ruby sent Max back to the store with a list that said, milk. This time Max wrote red-hot marshmallow squirters in a different way. Max hoped and hoped for his squirters, but the grocer still couldn't read Max's writing. "Milk," said the grocer, and he gave Max milk. Max brought the milk home to Ruby. "There's a yellow line on the floor, Max," said Ruby. "You can't step over that line." But Max crossed the line anyway. Over went the flower. Ruby got out her pencil. Flower. This time Max wrote red-hot marshmallow squirters in the most beautiful writing he knew. Max could almost taste the marshmallow squirters. "Flour," said the grocer, and he gave Max flour. When Max got home, there was a sign on the kitchen door. "Max, the kitchen is no place for you," said Ruby. Ruby finished up her cake. She baked it and cooled it and iced it with raspberry fluff frosting. "It needs something else, Max," said Ruby. "Birthday candles, silver stars, sugar hearts, buttercream roses," wrote Ruby. Meanwhile, Max had a brand new idea. He drew a picture of red-hot marshmallow squirters on Ruby's list and ran to the grocer. He could not wait. "Birthday candles, silver stars, sugar hearts, buttercream roses," said the grocer. "What's this?" "Why, it must be red-hot marshmallow squirters." Ruby's cake looked just beautiful. Max went out and put caterpillar icing on his earthworm cake. Grandma was so thrilled she didn't know which cake to eat first. The end. Good night, listener.
Chester Raccoon did not want to go to school. He wanted to stay home with his mom and play with his toys. Chester's mom told him that he had to go to school, even though he was scared. She knew he would love school. Chester's mom said, "You will make new friends. You will play with new toys. And you will read new books." "I have a secret," said Chester's mom. "What is the secret?" asked Chester. "It is called the kissing hand," said Chester's mom. Chester's mom kissed the palm of his hand. Chester's mom said, "When you miss me, press your hand to your cheek, and the kiss will jump to your face. I love you." Chester's mom closed his hand around the kiss. She told him that he would not lose the kiss when he opened his hand or washed his hands. Chester loved his kissing hand. That night, Chester said to his mom, "Give me your hand." Chester kissed the palm of his mom's hand.
Now you have a kissing hand too, Chester told his mom. I love you, he said, and he left for school. Chester's mom watched him go to school. She put her hand to her cheek. Chester loves you, she thought. I love you. Good night, listener.
We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. Whoa! Grass. Long wavy grass. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no! We've got to go through it. Swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. A river? A deep, cold river. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no! We gotta go through it. Splash, 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 splash. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. Thick, oozy mud. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no! We've got to go through it. Squelch, 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 squelch. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. A forest? A big dark forest. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no! We've got to go through it. Stumble, chip, stumble, chip, stumble, chip. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. A snowstorm? A swirling, whirling snowstorm. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no! We've got to go through it. Oh, 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 oh. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. A cave. A narrow, gloomy cave. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. We've got to go through it. Tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. What's that? One shiny wet nose. Two big furry ears. Two big goggly eyes. It's a bear! Quick! Back through the cave. Tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. Back through the snowstorm. Back through the forest. Stumble, chip, stumble, chip, stumble, chip. Back through the mud. Squelch, screech, squelch, screech, squelch, screech. Back through the river. Splash, 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 splash. Back through the grass. Swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy. Get to our front door. Open our front door. Up the stairs. Oh no, we forgot to shut the door. Back downstairs, back upstairs, into the bedroom, into the bed, under the covers. I'm not going on a bear hunt again. Good night, listener.
Once there were 3 owls, Sarah, Percy, and Bill. They lived in a hole in the trunk of a tree with their owl mother. One night, they woke up and their owl mother was gone. "Where's Mommy?" asked Sarah. "Oh my goodness," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill, but their owl mommy didn't come. "I think she's gone hunting," said Sarah. "To get us some food," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill, but their owl mommy didn't come. The owl babies came out of their house and sat on the tree and waited. "She'll be back," said Sarah. "She'll be back soon," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. It was dark in the wood. They had to be brave. Things moved all around them. "She'll bring mice and things that are nice," said Sarah. "I suppose so," said Percy. "I want my mommy," said Bill. "I think we should sit on my branch," said Sarah. And they did, all three of them. "Suppose she got lost or a fox got her. I want my mommy." The three babies closed their owl eyes and wished their owl mommy to come. Twit, twoo, and she came. Soft and silent, she swooped through the trees to Sarah, Percy, and Bill. "What's all the fuss? You knew I'd come back." "I knew it," said Sarah. "I knew it," said Percy. "I love my mommy," said Bill. Good night, listener.
Hi, sweetheart. I hope you're feeling very well. Today, I will read for you The Very Hungry Caterpillar. So, in the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up, and pop out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. He started to look for some food. "I'm so hungry," said the caterpillar. On Monday, he ate through one apple, but he was still hungry. On Tuesday, he ate through 2 pears, but he was still hungry. On Wednesday, he ate through 3 plums, but he was still hungry. On Thursday, he ate through 4 strawberries, but he was still hungry. On Friday, he ate through 5 oranges, but he was still hungry. On Saturday, he ate through 1 piece of chocolate cake, 1 ice cream cone, 1 pickle, 1 slice of Swiss cheese, 1 slice of salami, 1 lollipop, 1 piece of cherry pie, 1 sausage, 1 cupcake, and 1 slice of watermelon. That night, he had a stomachache. The very hungry caterpillar then ate through 1 green leaf. He started to feel better. Now, the caterpillar was no longer small. He was a big, fat caterpillar. He built a small house called a cocoon around himself. He stayed inside for more than 2 weeks. Then he nibbled a small hole in the cocoon, pushed his way out, and a beautiful butterfly came out. Sleep well. Good night. Good night, listener.
In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of the cow jumping over the moon. And there were 3 little bears sitting on chairs and 2 little kittens and a pair of mittens and a little toy house and a young mouse and a comb and a brush and a bowl full of mush, and a quiet old lady who was whispering, hush. Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light and the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Good night, kittens. Good night, mittens. Good night, clocks. Good night, socks. Good night, little house. Good night, mouse. Good night, comb. Good night, brush. Good night, nobody. Good night, mush. Good night to the old lady whispering, hush. Good night, stars. Good night, hair. Good night. Noises everywhere. Good night, listener.
Brown bear, what do you see? I see a red bird looking at me. Red bird, what do you see? I see a yellow duck looking at me. Yellow duck, what do you see? I see a blue horse looking at me. Blue horse, what do you see? I see a green frog looking at me. Green frog, what do you see? I see a purple cat looking at me. Purple cat, what do you see? I see a white dog looking at me. White dog, what do you see? I see a black sheep looking at me. Black sheep, what do you see? I see a goldfish looking at me. Goldfish, what do you see? I see a listener looking at me. Listener, what do you see? I see the reader looking at me. Reader, what do you see? I see a sleepyhead. Good night, listener. Lila Tove.
Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. Today, she was frightened even more than usual. It was the first day of school, and she couldn't decide what to wear. There were so many people to impress. She tried on 42 outfits, but none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror. Then she screamed. Her mother ran into the room, and she screamed too. "Oh my heavens," she cried. "You're completely covered with stripes." This was certainly true. Camilla was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Mrs. Cream felt Camilla's forehead. "Do you feel all right?" she asked. "I feel fine," Camilla answered, "but just look at me." "You get back in bed this instant," her mother ordered. "You're not going to school today." Camilla was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other kids would say. And she had no idea what to wear with those crazy stripes. That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. "Most extraordinary," he exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like it. Are you having any coughing, sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, or uncontrollable twitching?" "No," Camilla told him. "I feel fine." "Well then," Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, "I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should help to clear those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me." And off he went. The next day was a disaster. Everyone at school laughed at Camilla. They called her Camilla Crayon and Night of the Living Lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything were normal, but when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue and broke out into stars. The other kids thought this was great. One yelled out, "Let me see some purple polka dots." Sure enough, Camilla turned all purple polka dotty. Someone else shouted, "Checkerboard," and a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon, everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camilla was changing faster than you can change channels on TV. That night, Mrs. Harms, the school principal, called. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream," she said. "I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camilla home from school. She's just too much of a distraction, and I've been getting calls from the other parents. They're afraid those stripes might be contagious." Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her. Now nobody wanted to be in the same room with her. Her father tried to make her feel better. "Is there anything I can do for you, sweetheart?" he asked. "No, thank you," sighed Camilla. What she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans, but she had been laughed at enough for one day. Well, yes, I see," Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. "I think I better bring in the specialist. We'll be right over." About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced them to the Creams. "This is Dr. Grop, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young." Then the specialist went to work on Camilla. They squeezed and jabbed, tapped and tested. It was very uncomfortable. "Well, it's not the mumps," concluded Dr. Grop. "Or the measles," said Dr. Sponge. "Definitely not chicken pox," put in Dr. Cricket. "Or sunburn," said Dr. Young. "Try these," said the specialist. They each handed her a bottle full with different colored pills. "Take one of each before bed," said Dr. Grop. They filed at the front door, followed by Dr. Bumble. That night Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel different, but when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant, multicolored pill with her face on it. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called. But this time, instead of the specialist, he brought the experts. Dr. Gord and Mr. Millen were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camilla was poked, prodded, looked, and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers. Then they huddled together and whispered. Dr. Gord finally spoke. "It might be a virus," he announced with authority. Suddenly, fuzzy little virus balls appeared all over Camilla. "Or possibly some form of bacteria," said Mr. Mellon. Out popped squiggly little bacteria tails. "Or it could be a fungus," added Dr. Gord. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different colored fungus blotches. The experts looked at Camilla and then at each other. "We need to go over these numbers again back at the lab," Dr. Gord explained. "We'll call you when we know something," but the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. By now, the TV news had found out about Camilla. Reporters from every channel were outside her house telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon, a huge crowd was camped out on the front lawn. The Creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies from psychologists, allergists, herbalists, nutritionists, psychics, an old medicine man, a guru, and even a veterinarian. Each so-called cure only added to poor Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers in a long furry tail, but nothing worked. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed she could cure Camilla. "Close your eyes," she said. "Breathe deeply and become one with your room." "I wish you hadn't said that," Camilla groaned. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth, her nose was a dresser, and 2 paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and ran from the house. "What are we going to do?" cried Mrs. Cream. It just keeps getting worse and worse. She began to cry. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet little knock on the front door. He opened it, and there stood an old woman who was just as plump and as sweet as a strawberry. "Excuse me," she said brightly, "but I think I can help." She went into Camilla's room and looked around. "My goodness," she said with a shake of her head. "What we have here is a bad case of the stripes. One of the worst I've ever seen." She pulled a container of small green beans from her bag. "Here," she said, "these might do the trick." "Are those magic beans?" asked Mrs. Cream. "Oh my, no," replied the kind old woman. "There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans. I'll bet you'd like some, wouldn't you?" she asked Camilla. Camilla wanted a big heaping plate of lima beans, more than just about anything, but she was still afraid to admit it. "Yuck," she said. "No one likes lima beans, especially me." "Oh dear," the old lady said sadly. "I guess I was wrong about you." She put the beans back into her bag and started toward the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed at for eating them was nothing compared to what she'd been going through. Finally, she couldn't stand it. "Wait," she cried. "The truth is, I really love lima beans." "I thought so," the old woman said with a smile. She took a handful of beans and popped them into Camilla's mouth. "Mmm," said Camilla. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. There stood Camilla, and everything was back to normal. "I'm cured," she shouted. "Yes," said the old woman. "I knew the real you was in there somewhere." She patted Camilla on the head, then she went outside and vanished into the crowd. Afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had to touch the stripes again. Good night, listener. If You Give a Mouse a Cookie by Laura Joffe Numero. If you give a mouse a cookie, then the mouse will ask for a glass of milk. When you give the mouse the milk, he will ask you for a straw. When the mouse is finished, he will ask for a napkin. The mouse will want to look in a mirror to see if he has a milk mustache. When the mouse looks in the mirror, the mouse will see his hair needs a trim. After the mouse trims his hair, the mouse will want a broom. The mouse might sweep every room in the house. The mouse will then want to take a nap. You will have to find him a little box with a blanket and pillow. The mouse will make himself comfortable and ask you to read a story. He will ask to see the picture and will want to draw. The mouse will draw with crayons and paper. When the picture is finished, the mouse will want to sign his name with a pen. The mouse will want to hang his picture on the refrigerator, so the mouse will ask for tape. The mouse will hang up his picture and look at it. The mouse will remember that he is thirsty and ask for a glass of milk. With the glass of milk, he will want a cookie. The end. Good night, listener.
How do you hug a porcupine? Can you hug a horse? Of course. A cow? With arms around her neck. That's how. A dog or cat is not so hard. Just hug them in your own backyard. Hugging bunnies is just divine. But how do you hug a porcupine? Can you hug some billy goats? Just entice them with a bag of oats. And surely you can hug a pig. Just spread your arms out extra big. with baby chicks. Be sweet, be kind. But how do you hug a porcupine? This prickly fellow won't be easy. My stomach's feeling kind of queasy. He wears a coat of thorny quills. To hug this one will take some skills. A hedgehog is a little prickly. An ostrich is a little tickly. A chimpanzee will hug you back. I've never tried to hug a yak. A giraffe requires quite a climb. But how do you hug a porcupine? An elephant, please hug his trunk. I wouldn't want to hug a skunk. A kangaroo, just hop this way. Don't let the dolphins slip away. A panther probably wouldn't mind. But how do you hug a porcupine? You must go slowly, never hurry. Porcupines aren't soft and furry. His quills defend him from his foes. But I'm his friend, he surely knows. At last, hooray, it's finally time. This is how you hug a porcupine. Very carefully. Good night, listener.
Slinky Malinky was blacker than black, a stalking and lurking adventurous cat. He had bright yellow eyes, a warbling wail, and a kink at the end of his very long tail. He was cheeky and cheerful, friendly and fun. He'd chase after leaves, and he'd roll in the sun. But at night he was wicked, and fiendish and sly. Through moonlight and shadow he'd prowl and he'd pry. He crept along fences, he leapt over walls, he poked into corners and sneaked into halls. What was he up to? At night, to be brief, Slinky Malinky turned into a thief. All over town, from basket and bowl, all over town, from basket and bowl, he pilfered and pillaged, he snitched and he stole. Slippers and sausages, biscuits, balloons, brushes and bandages, pencils and spoons. He pulled them, he dragged them, he heaved them until he'd carried them home to his house on the hill. One rascally night between midnight and 4, Slinky Malinky stole more than before. Some pegs and a teddy bear dressed up in lace, a gardening glove from McCafferty's place, a tatty old sneaker, a smelly old sock, and Jennifer Turkington's pottery smock. A squishy banana, some glue and a pin, a cushion from Oliver Tulliver's den, a clock and some bottles, a pair of blue jeans, a half-knitted jersey, a packet of beans. He pulled them, he dragged them, he heaved them until he'd carried them home to his house on the hill. Then Slinky Malinky, rascallion cat, piled them up high in a heap on the mat. The glue toppled over and gummed up the pegs. The jersey unraveled and tangled his legs. He tripped on the bottles and slipped on the sock. He tipped over sideways and set off the clock. Crash went the bottles, beep went the clock, row, 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 row went the dogs on the block. On went the lights, and bang went the door. Out came the family. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, they all said. What a criminal cat! Tomorrow we'll have to take everything back. With a tangled up middle and glue on his face, Slinky Malinky was deep in disgrace. Never again did he answer the call, when moon shadows danced over garden and wall. When whispers of wickedness stirred in his head, he adjusted his whiskers and stayed home instead. Good night, listener.
Did you enjoy them? I wonder how many you were able to recall. My tale is not quite like the others. It runs parallel to you, listening right now. How kind and grateful we all are for you, to simply just listen to us. What stories we have to tell, what role plays we act out. Without you, listener, we are nothing. We know this, but I hope you do too. It's important to know your worth and value. You are worth much more than you will ever imagine, and that's okay. Maybe it would even keep you humble. I think I speak for all of us when I say thank you. Truly, for every little thing you do. You enable so many of us to do what we do. Thank you doesn't really seem like enough right now, does it? I suppose you ought to rest soon, though. Kept you up long enough, have I not? Rest well, listener, from all of us.
Good night, listener.
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 Good night, listener.